Hello and welcome to My Mom's Basement presented by Barstool Sports and 3Chi. It is Robbie Fox and Clem back in the basement after a while. It was me mom's cellar for a while. I was over in London. We couldn't get a nerdy episode together, and now we finally got one. Another free swim kind of mailbag edition. Shout out to Eddie. Shout out to the dog walk for using that little trademark of his right there. But yeah, it's going to be a chill episode. Today is actually the original Multiverse of Madness release date for Doctor Strange. So happy release date, Clem.
The fucking, out of all those little combinations that panned out in his brain, this was where one of them went, where the release date was supposed to happen. Unfortunately, it's not the case, but hey, I think the way everything has gone off, the way they've kind of rewritten everything, I think we'll be all right. I do wish it was out right now, because we have Moon Knight coming out next week, and then the basement is we're going to be flooded with nerd stuff for a while. But it kind of worked out perfect. Bob was over there. You bloke over in England. Absolute W of a trip. I mean, the Patty the Batty fight was incredible. The Meatball is now as a coworker.
The Meatball. Yeah, we got her. We signed her. It's official. I put that in the notes. Yesterday, I got the tweet from Dave. I found out just like everyone else did, basically, with that tweet. It was great news. We officially signed the Meatball. She officially tweeted me and said that she wants to do meatball and beer reviews all over New York City. I said, I'll be your Frankie. I'll just go and film them if you want me to. Meatball Molly McCann, if you don't know, is Patty's teammate. They call her Patty's big sister because they've been training together for 9-10 years. And she honestly acts like his big sister. It's so funny. If you watch their interview, we had them together on the Spin and Backfish show this week, and Patty starts talking about how much he's been eating and how excited he is to get fat. And she's like, "Oh no, Patrick, go for a run, Patrick. Come on."
I love it. She calls him Patrick.
Gym. Yeah,
I love that she calls him Patrick. He's he's Patty. He has the haircut. He's just such a character. He's like a cartoon character. And then she calls him Patrick and kind of grounds them all. So shout out to the whole UFC as a whole. Uncle Dana. The fucking subscriptions are going up. The views are going up in the basement.
And so FaceTiming Dave not only during my interview, but as soon as Patty wins, he FaceTimed Dave from cage side, basically. This connection, this Barstool UFC, we're signing fighters and everything. All things are coming up for this connection. I feel it's awesome.
It's awesome because when you have someone that you're rooting for, or just fights in general, a big fight night, whether it is UFC or even boxing, the celebration, or just even Twitter is always the most electric for those moments. And then to be able to have it in the live stream, and then having Dave so invested, and now we have people, coworkers are fighting. I think it's awesome. So that got me really stoked. I was watching it live, and the timeline was every single one of us idiots who work here, Patty or Batty or some, combination of the two. So, big things for Bob Fox here, man. That was awesome. And Patty, and the fact that Patty is with Blaze, who was did game
legend.
time. It's gonna bother Smitty every single time, which kind of makes me laugh too. But Blaze is a good dude. I mean, we love him as well. I'm happy to see he's landed on his feet. So
I told this story already, but at the after party, Blaze is the king. If you don't know, Blaze used to work for Game Time. He got let go by Barstool, and now he works for Patty's Batty. So he basically works for Barstool again. He's the best. Nobody has ever had a bad word to say about him. Everyone loves him, and he's kind of like Blaze's Frankie right now. He's Patty's Frankie. He's his right-hand guy. So at the after party, he was going grabbing drinks for everyone, grabbing food for Patty. That was the funniest thing. Patty was not interested in drinks, party, and celebrating. He was like, "Get me one of everything on the menu." And he just sat at a table eating food the whole time. It was great. It was a wholesome time. I met Patty's fiance, his dad, his family. It was so nice. And then all of a sudden, Blaze just comes in to the back family room with Molly McCann on his shoulders. She's literally she's at a concert just going, "Give me a chicken wing. Give me a chicken wing." Someone gives her a chicken wing. She takes a big bite and just yeets it into the crowd behind her, just throws it back.
So, let's just say there's going to be plenty of good stuff coming out of those two over.
There's a video of her falling off the bars trying to sing Sweet Caroline at the after party, just falling straight off the bar. I mean, those two need a podcast together, I think. They did an episode of Patty's podcast together, and the numbers were crazy. So I think if we get them on a weekly show together, some kind of brother, sister, we'll come up with a clever name for it. Oh, that'll be money.
And speaking of numbers, like you said, the subscriptions are up. So subscribe on the YouTube right now. Even if you haven't, 17K we're at right now. Let's get to that 20.
Just casually wearing the Infinity Gauntlet over there.
Yep, just wearing the Infinity Gauntlet today. AJ, I am now officially Thanos in the house. I get the gauntlet. AJ throws his Captain America gear on. Sienna will kind of usually go Black Widow. Last time she ended up being Proxima, whatever her name is. So
yeah.
she joined my team. So yeah, I'm just gonna steer into the Thanos side of things because we're getting nerdy here. So you said Multiverse of Madness supposed to come out today. Still rumors about runtime, all this. What are you hoping for in terms of the runtime? Are you hoping for 2 hours, 2.5, fucking 3? Go another Batman here. What are you hoping for?
Not 3. Batman was my fill for 3-hour superhero movies this year. I feel like even that movie that I love so much, I got like a sick poster when I went in IMAX. Let me show the poster off just in case the people haven't seen like
people
the
on the
IMAX
YouTube
poster.
got to see it. Yeah,
exactly. This is like I might frame this thing.
Yep, that's
really
legit.
cool, like just a sideways kind of overall. It's got the red glow of it, like the red flare, Batman leading the people out or whatever. So I've gotten my fill of 3-hour superhero movies this year, but I would like it to be over 2 hours. I feel like a movie like Multiverse of Madness is going to be an event movie. It's going to be like one of those holy shit, I can't believe they're doing Endgame style stuff, No Way Home style stuff. So I'm very okay with. I think the rumor is 2.5 hours. I think that's totally cool. Like for a movie like this, it's a movie that deserves it. Whereas if I saw this for like Eternals, which we did, it was, that was one of the longest Marvel movies. That was a little intimidating. For Doctor Strange, when I know we're getting X-Men and we're getting cameos and Reed Richards might be in it and all that crazy stuff, I'm okay with the 2.5 hours. I think it's going to fly by.
Yeah, this is a big enough movie. This is an event movie for the MCU where, like you said, Eternal, Shang-Chi, those are introducing new characters. This is probably going to, like you said, hopefully, knock on wood, introduce some new big characters and also tie up some of the loose ends, a lot of stuff that's going to take us into the next part of the phase here. There's a lot of shit that has to go down. I'm more than fine with 2.5 hours. Again, that's the old man. That's the guy who has to piss, twice during a movie that's, 2 hours or more. That's coming from someone like me. So I'm right with Bob. 2.5 feels like the perfect amount for this movie, or less. I would be fine with less.
Yeah, even 2:15, something like that. Yeah, that feels right.
And again, you're staying till the credits because there's going to be at least a post-credit scene or two. But there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot of shit to tie up. And whenever you're dealing with Doctor Strange and magic, you have to kind of explain it a little bit more again, even to the people, because the people who haven't seen every single piece of content in the last year, 2 years, or even the first Doctor Strange. So yeah, I'd be 100% fine with it. Someone said like this is going to be like Marvel's No Way Home, and I was like, fuck, it kind of is. This is a really big deal here. You know what I mean? And granted, No Way Home, it was like decades in the making, apples and oranges, but it's tying in a lot of shit. And
this could be too, though. Think about Patrick Stewart. That first X-Men movie came out decades ago,
That's a fair point. And I feel like we're finally going to get a little bit of closure from the WandaVision, which is where, we kind of really started doing these visits to the basement and pumping up the nerd content and going through every single MCU show. I just kind of think of like how excited we were during that run, and it's going to kind of get reopened again. And I'm really hoping in the future we're going to have Wanda in basically once every 3 or 4 movies. Scarlet Witch is somehow involved in it because I think her character is going to be so important, and I love the way that Elizabeth Olsen crushed it.
I agree. We talked about this like off air. We were just texting each other, and we said that she's still like the one to beat as far as Disney Plus performances go. Like that performance in WandaVision, outrageously good. Just that one episode I think back to where she has the most amazing delivery of the line "No" I've ever heard.
Yeah,
she says no, and everything goes back. I was like, "Holy fuck!" It gives me chills thinking about it.
I got goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah, such a good moment, such a good scene. And I think there is a rumor that she signed on for like 7 more years for Marvel. I don't know if it's confirmed, but it was like the rumor I think said Elizabeth Olsen signs on for 7 more years. Production starts on the first ever solo movie for her. If that's true, I'm all for it. Like Clem just said, like her performance, the way she plays that character, you give me as much Scarlet Witch as you possibly can at this point, which I never thought I would say when we saw like Age of Ultron and she was doing the accent and it was all about the relationship and her brother. Like that, it's crazy to me that I like her as much as I do. She's one of my favorite characters in the entire universe. And I feel like this movie is only going to make that hammer home a little more, because even her line in the trailer where she's like, I break the rules, I'm a villain, you break the rules, you're the hero, like that doesn't seem fair. It's true. Like what Doctor Strange did for Spider-Man was breaking the multiverse. It's what she did for WandaVision in a weird way. He didn't entrap people and make them hostages like the citizens and whatnot, but it's kind of similar.
Yeah, she's been kind of the victim of a lot of double standards and a lot of bullshit, right? And I
Yeah,
do think if it's a heel turn or kind of where she's more of this like in that chaotic good or whatever evil chart, she's going to be kind of in the middle and maybe skew to the right a little bit. And it's 100% justified, which makes characters and villains and whatever you want to call it more interesting. And I would love
way
to see,
better. Yeah,
and even in like wrestling, right? Wrestling's so big and it's blowing up right now too. Shout out the basement is
I
hitting
know
out home.
WrestleMania is next weekend, April 2nd and 3rd. I'm going down to
Easy,
B
man.
Walk.
But that's kind of the most fun about the parts of wrestling. It's like where you do have the heel that does have some good parts of him, and he could kind of play both sides of the fence. And with The Rock was like that back in the day. This is my era talking. DX was kind of like that. So I'm really excited to see where Wanda goes and to kind of see Wanda. I don't know if I've ever made this comparison with her, but this will be my sports comparison for the episode. It's almost like with Steph Curry, where it's like Curry came into the league and he had like the ankle injuries, and like you're like, all right, this guy's pretty good, could do one thing pretty cool. And I feel like she might just grow into like fucking MVP, crazy ass, like she's
Hitting
like
shots
star
from
of the
the
show.
stands during warm-ups.
Yeah. Because when you watch Endgame again and you see how she just takes apart Thanos, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. She is the baddest motherfucker in this battle.
WandaVision, like it's almost like a Rogue One thing, how they like make A New Hope better. Like
Yeah.
WandaVision and shit makes that scene better. When it shows up, you're like, yeah, you took everything from her. And it's like when he says, I don't even know who you are, it makes it hurt a little more for us too now. We're like, what? He bought her a house in New Jersey. You motherfucker.
Oh, we have Jersey Bob coming in too. I forgot about that. It's a whole other part of this.
Yeah. Speaking of Jersey Bob, when I flew back to Jersey, I wanted to just note this because this is just a weird thing and a nerdy thing. I see Delta has the Star Wars movies on their thing, and it's a long flight back from London. I said, "Oh, this is perfect. I'll watch the original trilogy. They're the ultimate like comfort movies for me. Throw them on in the background. You look up, you could fall asleep, wake up during a scene. You know exactly where you are in the movie." I said, "This is actually going to be a fun flight home. I'm going to watch the entire original trilogy." Put on episode 4, watch the whole thing. It was a great time. I'm like, this is one of the greatest movies. Watching it on a plane. They don't have Empire Strikes Back. They have episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. They have Rogue One. I think they have Solo. They have every Star Wars movie except Empire. What the fuck? So I watched what I considered the happy cut, which was just A New Hope into Return of the Jedi. They never really get one over on the Rebels. The Rebels are just crushing them.
Winning streak.
Yeah.
You know what? Like the way my brain works, and I don't know what this is about like humans. It's like when you have like 1,000 nice comments about you and then the one bad one just sticks in your craw. All I would have thought of that entire way home is I just want to watch Empire. I just want to watch Empire.
I was thinking that. You're right, because that's what I was thinking.
And like granted, like if you have, and usually the movies on the planes have gotten a lot better. I think I watched Dune on the way out to LA and I had never even seen Dune. So it was nice to get that done. But like there is so much good shit. There is some good TV shows. Would you rather have Empire or everything else except for Empire?
Everything else except for Empire, because on a long flight like that, it depends. Like on a shorter flight, I'd rather just have Empire. But on a long, it was like 14-hour door-to-door day. Now, obviously, the whole flight wasn't that long, but it was long. So, like, for something like that, I had a good time watching New Hope and a good time watching Return of the Jedi. That scene where the Ewoks really think that C-3PO is a god and they start floating him and all. That's just such a great scene. That's such a great movie when he's telling the stories, the war stories. I really do love that movie. But the saddest scene in the history of Star Wars, I think, is in Return of the Jedi. When that one Ewok dies and the other one is fucking shaking him, trying to wake him up.
Yeah, that's tough. The cuteness factor, but then you're having some death involved. That just fucking like
it's like the dog swimming in the Gotham flood at the end of Batman. That's the saddest moment in that movie. You see a little golden retriever swimming, and it's like, what the fuck?
We're not trying to get sad here on the pod. We're down in the basement. It's the first time in a while. We're not trying to bum everyone out. No, but I'm with you. I will say, like, for me, I would rather just have Empire, and then I could just hop around. But like the thing is, like, I'm talking to like a guy with a fucking lightsaber tattooed on his body. I'm sure our guy Prequel Stan is like, no, I'd very happily take the prequels and everything else. But for a guy like me, I would love to watch New Hope, Jedi, and I kind of have to watch Force Awakens because I want to know how it is on a rewatch. It's been a while since I've rewatched it, but just
I think you still like it.
Yeah, knowing how the sequel trilogy ended, I was so hyped up after Force Awakens. I think I did a podcast with, I think it was Charlie Wisco and I think RA, and we were all geeking out on it big time right as soon as it was released. And now it's like, obviously I know how it ends, but I still really like the movie. I know it was basically just a carbon clone of A New Hope, but I even was like, you know what, if that's how we're going to reboot it and time is a flat circle, that's fine. But for me, I would probably just be like Empire. That gets me through like a good, like, what is that, like 2.5 hours?
It's over 2, yeah.
So a good chunk of time on the plane, and then I just go somewhere else. You know what movies are for me?
What?
In a plane. It's basically the thing I can focus on when you hit that patch of turbulence and I'm just gripping on my seat and I just like put myself into the movie just to get me out. Because I am the biggest bitch. Whenever there's the littlest bit of turbulence, I am such a little bitch that's like crying to himself, like, I can't believe I'm up here. I wish I was on the ground right now.
I had a lot on my flight home. It was never like to the point where, you get turbulence where you feel like you're almost like in zero gravity for a second, where like it's such a big bump. It's never to that point, but it was just constant. The whole flight was kind of bumpy. And yeah, I didn't love that.
One of the funniest things ever said up on Barstool, I'm going to put it in the top 10, and it's coming from someone who said probably a bunch of the other things in the top 10, was in the original rundown on Comedy Central when there was the story about the plane full of birds that like crashed, and Big Cat was like, did they open the thing so the birds could fly out? And I was like, holy shit, that's like the smartest thing I've ever heard in my life. It blew my mind.
One very funny thing I wanted to bring up from our dozen match. We played in the dozen. So if you haven't seen that dozen match, Honkers versus ZD yet, spoilers, ZD kicked our ass. It was tough. It was a rematch. Eddie went off. He scored 8 points. He was on fire. One of the funniest things, though, little thing, it wasn't even like a talked about thing. Dave had a line where he goes, is every answer on this show just Jamie Lee Curtis? And that really cracked me up for some reason. I thought about it a couple times since we played, just laughing to myself going, is every answer on this show Jamie Lee Curtis?
Just such a Portnoy line, obviously, and like having Dave so engaged and into it is the best. And he loves reminding everyone that me and Eddie are like unstoppable in any food category, which I appreciate. With the snacks, obviously.
As soon as your niche came up, he's like, double it.
It's like, yeah, Dave, we already doubled the niche. That's fine. But again, that's the best part about Dave. But yeah, Portnoy, like Jamie Lee, I think someone called her Jamie Lynn Curtis too, which was a whole other thing.
Maybe, yeah. So, like Jamie Lynn Spears, you got to be swapped up. That would be a face mash. It's like Jamie Lynn Spears' face and Jamie Lee Curtis's body.
Nothing worse than going against the Honkers too. Just 3 likable people, good team, rabid fan base. I will say though, it was nice. I didn't have the fan base coming at me like they usually do. Like the Honkers are gonna murder ZD. Honkers fans were very quiet. It's like they almost knew it was coming. And I'm telling you, the only thing worse, like the least safe lead in sports is when ZD is up any amount, because we're just going to shoot ourselves in the foot. And you can see me right before the last question that we got right to win the game. I have my hands on my head and I'm just like, how the fuck are we going to blow this? And, credit to Dave. And, Rico was the original third member of ZD. Dave has like, he's gotten us out of our own heads, and it wasn't even a Rico thing. I was the final answer guy when Rico was here, but it's such a different, he's a leader. There's leadership. Yeah. Dave leads this company. He's the one who's been captaining the pirate ship since day one. And he's the only reason that we kind of been having a little bit of smooth sailing. And I wrote a whole blog about it. You could go read it on Barstool. 3 words I want to say about us right now. ZD ain't bad. Every fucking game we have to play in the main event because we have a main eventer on our fucking team. So it's like they're not going to put Portnoy against a team that's not very good. He's going to put it. Jeff's going to put us against a team that puts asses in the seats. So it's the Honkers, it's Minahan, it's the Frankettes, it's Yak, it's the experts. We face fucking monster teams every single week. And our win-loss record isn't great, but like our points per match, we're right there with you guys. We have like the same points per match now, I think, after that thing. So excited. We're heading to Chicago, which is going to be fun. So get your tickets once they're out. And
it's like a theater show too. That's like legit. That's like going to be a big show. So definitely buy your tickets to that. That's going to be awesome. And if you're a Honkers fan, I appreciate you, and we'll be back. The night is darkest just before the dawn, as they say in The Dark Knight. We'll be back. There will be honkings given out during the tournament. We will be honking left and right. Come on.
I can't wait for that.
Don't count us out.
The tournament, like I think KFC said on the Dave Pointer show, like how the office has changed, where it's much more like a lot of production and resources, and it's not as much like it was back at the old office where we were all just gathered up in like the bullpen of content. But the first dozen tournament was the most electric I've seen The Office. And I don't go in that much, so I'm sure there was other moments that were like that other days. But it was like we had the guys from Chicago and everyone was watching the tournament live. There is something about the dozen. I think as Barstool has become much more segmented and everyone's kind of going their own ways, I think the dozen does show how great Barstool is when everyone is on the same page or doing shit together. I hope we get more of that sooner rather than later, because that's my favorite part about Barstool. It's not,
I think we will too. Like the chatter in the office right now is all about the game shows coming back, the surviving Barstools, the all of that stuff, which Eric has said is coming back this summer. I think we're gonna get a lot more of that in the future. I hope so too, because I like the collaborative stuff. That was part of when we started like the Spin and Backfist podcast. It's one of the first things that I said. Like, let's get as many people in the office. We had KB on this week. We have Big Ev and Jack Mac on every week. We've had MRags on. We're gonna have Jersey Jerry on. Anyone that even has a slight interest in MMA, we want to get on the show and have that group vibe, have that open door vibe that Barstool, I feel like, thrives on so much.
Yeah, and it's when there's people that you least expect, add something in. And I do think that, again, there was 2 years where basically Erica was writing emails saying, do not come in the office unless you absolutely have to, because there's a motherfucking pandemic. And right before a big, the Arizona Bowl, which obviously got canceled, or different events, she's like, I don't need our heavy hitters getting sick because someone came in. She didn't say that, but I deducted that. We don't need Dave getting COVID for the 18th time right before we're about to have a big event or something like that. So hopefully, like I said, I do think that's going to be the case as well. That was one of my favorite things about when we previewed, or I think we reviewed Infinity War, it was me, you, Hubs was in there with us, Fran. I think getting all those different voices and different points of view, I think that's awesome. And then you have everyone else who gets into all that kind of stuff. I was thinking we want to have Chris Castellani on at some point in the basement. I was thinking we gotta get Fran in the basement at some point. She's a diehard nerd. She's like a closet nerd because everyone is supposed.
She's probably Star Wars prequel stan.
Yeah, wow. That's her burner. Fred's burner is Star Wars prequels. Star Wars prequels, Fred. It fucking rhymes. That's how you know it's fucking true.
It really does.
We just outed her on the pod.
That might be her. Some other things that I wrote down before we get into some questions. I saw Billy Joel at the Garden last night. It was my first time seeing the King, Billy Joel, Glenny Ball's King, of course. He was the one that convinced me to go because he couldn't. He was doing a stream, and I just heard him in the office be like, damn, I wish I was seeing Joel tomorrow. And I was like, is he at the Garden? And he said, yeah, tickets are cheap. You should go. I said, all right, Glenny, I will go. I brought my girlfriend. It was a great time. It's one of those shows where if you haven't seen Billy Joel live, you want to check that off the bucket list. If you're a music fan, you want to say, I've been able to see him at the Garden. And every song he plays, you're like, oh my God, this is him too. This is such a crazy big hit. It's crazy. It was such a good show. And I wrote down a question for you. What's the one concert that you want to go to that you actually could? Not like a dream concert. Oh, I want to see the Beatles. But like someone that's actually alive that you could go see. Because for me, it is Paul McCartney, who I'll see this summer. He's doing a tour leading up to his Glastonbury headlining spot, and he's playing MetLife. So I already got my tickets. I'm stoked. I'm going to make a whole day of it. Hopefully Frankie's going too. I think he probably will. We're going to do a tailgate, listen to the Beatles all day, go to the show. It's the ultimate. How could you not want to see Paul McCartney? But what would it be for you?
Shit, I didn't even think of McCartney. That's a good answer. Just to say you saw a Beatle, right? And the Beatle, depending if you're a Lennon guy or McCartney guy, those are the two guys that are were the front men. That might be the right answer. And so let me just first off say, Billy Joel, if you're listening to this and you like Billy Joel, you love Billy Joel, go see Billy Joel. Just get the tickets now because you never fucking know what could happen. God forbid. My answer a few years ago would have been Tom Petty. And I didn't do it. There was one concert he did every year. I go to Saratoga right around Travers time, which is their big race up there. And they usually have a big time, headliner of the concert, usually on Friday night at SPAC, which is their outdoor concert theater. And I didn't even know he did it. And I had a buddy who ended up going. And I'm like, man, I wish I had known. I would have gone up. Fast forward a few years, and Tom Petty, I'd always look at his tours and always try, and there'd always be something going on. Obviously, he passed, and that was out of the blue, right? How he just was gone. And I'm like, man, and I've always heard how great his show was. I saw Billy Joel. I actually went up to Albany to see Billy Joel and Elton John, and I'm like, two motherfucking monsters off of the bucket list. And I'll tell you, man, that drive home was an absolute bitch. We ended up driving home the next day because we all had work. And I was pretty close to being an old fuck who was washed up. I was so tired. And every time I think about how bad that ride was, I was like, you know what? I crossed Billy Joel and Elton John off my bucket list. Absolutely go see both of those guys and anyone else that's like older, because you really never know. So that's the first kind of thing I wanted to say just in terms of Billy Joel. Absolutely awesome concert.
Such a good show.
So fucking good.
I mean, his run of like the songs that he ended with, where it was like 7 or 8 songs in a row where you're like, would have been the most popular song that any other artist ever wrote in their entire life. And Billy Joel's got a dozen of them that he's just whipping out into the crowd.
What's your number one, Joel? What's your number one favorite?
I think it's more of a stereotypical scenes from an Italian restaurant, but when it comes to the not deep cuts, but the other songs, there was a moment during the show last night where he goes into Zanzibar, which is one of my favorite Joel songs, and I stand up immediately. It was kind of a stand-up, sit-down show, like depending on what the song was.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, Zanzibar, what a jam, absolute jam. I stand up as seemingly every single person at Madison Square Garden sat down. My girlfriend was laughing so hard at me because I was the only person standing up for that song. So that would be the one that I would call out as maybe a Robbie Fox special. But I was stunned. Who doesn't like Zanzibar?
That's funny that everyone just went down. And I'm with you. Like, Scenes is my favorite too. And it's like when it's like, we're gonna play chalk. It's like Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in baseball because that's what he fucking is. Scenes, it's like it's a fucking great song. It's an epic. You get to see it live. It just gets the energy up. It's a story. You know what I mean? The fact, and anyone who hasn't seen, I saw Glennie blog that I think it was last year. They made a music video for it out of the blue, which I thought recently was so incredible. And I was always like, I don't know if you could really do a video for this because we've all probably played a video in our heads. We've imagined it. And it kind of plays out exactly as I think it's kind of played out in my head. So I thought that was perfect. Anyway, the answer to your question. So I was trying to think of it. I've seen a lot of the bands or groups that I've wanted to see. And again, if you haven't seen Bruno Mars, you got to see Bruno Mars.
You saw Bruno, you saw the Up and Smoke tour, you saw DMX in a mall.
in a steakhouse in a mall. Aerosmith was my favorite band growing up. That was my first concert I ever saw.
I remember you told that story in this show, I think.
First
Aerosmith show,
Papa Clem. And that was when I first smelled marijuana in my life. And I didn't know it was marijuana for a few years later. So the two answers I have, and they're not like massive bands or groups, but one is Hall & Oates. I just fucking love Hall & Oates. I'm hoping for Guardians. We get a Hall & Oates song in Guardians 3 coming up. And that was one that I think right before the world shut down in 2020, I had a show like targeted and it just fell through. And then the other one is The Offspring. Wow.
I'll go to an Offspring show with you. I'm in.
So that was like teenage or maybe a little before preteen Clem. I just absolutely fucking love The Offspring. I was in a bar actually in Saratoga and they just played the greatest hits one night. And I was like, holy shit, man, this thing and then you know what? No one was complaining about the same band playing. It's like everyone, I absolutely love The Offspring. And I think Eddie mentioned something about The Offspring pretty recently, how he wants to see them in concert. I looked up again, Hall & Oates and Offspring. I always am looking up their
touring together.
Yeah. Oh my God. Can you imagine that? That would be incredible. And Offspring is playing on my birthday in Chicago. And I was like, Eddie, here you go, man. It's a Saturday too. So I'm like, here you go, man. You fucking do it. I have my daughter's dance recital on my birthday. So a double whammy. I'm turning 40, the big 40. I'm old as hell. I can't go see The Offspring with my guy, Eddie, out in Chicago. I'll be watching my little 7-year-old doing a couple twirls, probably a 2-hour concert. She'll be on stage for 2 minutes, and I'm gonna be stuck inside doing that. But Offspring, and
Sienna, someone's got to tell Sienna, do your dance recital to The Offspring for Daddy.
Yeah, can we change the song to Self-Esteem? I've been meaning to tweet this out, and I never did, but I wanted to tell you. So the other day, I played the Peacemaker credits for AJ, and I was like, AJ, what do you think of this? Absolutely loved it. Does the dance, he goes, Alexa, play Do You Want to Taste It? Which is very weird to hear like a 4-year-old say. So now I said, AJ, this is called rock and roll. Do you want to listen to more of it? Yeah. So every morning on the way to preschool now, I just turn on like a rock and roll mix. I start off with Do You Want to Taste It? And then we just go through the hits. And I taught him how to do the horns. And I said, this is what it's called, head bobbing. So we head bob in the car on the way to daycare. And he's learning some today we got some Zeppelin in, we got some Queen in, and we kind of go, and if like a pop song comes on and shuffle, he goes, Dad, this isn't rock and roll. So AJ, I've always known AJ. I've always thought he's going to be like a Bud Heavy, Marlboro Red kind of guy. And I'm basically raising the peacemaker. Like he's going to have a mullet. He's going to be
get him a leather jacket. Yeah.
Exactly. He's big in the rock and roll already. So I'm doing my job on that end. But yeah, Offspring and Hall & Oates, two very different fucking things. But if they ever do a show
great together, answers though. I like those answers.
And I'll tell you my third. They played at Citi Field, and I couldn't go because there was a graduation, I think, on my wife's side. I think my wife's sister graduated. I was gonna go. The Mets used to have mini concerts after the game. You get like 4 or 5 songs, which for some bands is the perfect amount. I don't have to go.
That's pretty cool.
I missed Heart, and I wanted to see Heart so goddamn bad. So it's like I don't have to go to a Heart show. I don't have to, see some opener that I don't care about. I would have just gotten nothing but the hits, and I would have got a Mets game out of it. And it just didn't work out in terms of timing. But that's like those are the 3 that I've been
Heart is
actively
awesome. Heart's underrated too by people my age. Like I feel like when they name all the big rock bands of that era, Heart usually doesn't come up. But like Nancy Wilson from Heart, she wrote some of the stuff from Almost Famous as well. She was married to Cameron Crowe for a while. Yeah. If you go on YouTube, look up the Kennedy Center Honors for Led Zeppelin, Heart doing Stairway to Heaven with Jason Bonham on drums. Woo, one of the best covers you'll ever hear with Led Zeppelin in attendance, Robert Plant crying as they do it. Like, because he didn't know that Jason Bonham was going to play drums for it. And it's like the curtain opens and he sees like, oh, there's my best friend's son, who, they're now very close friends and whatnot. Yep. Just an awesome, awesome performance. Now, some more nerdy stuff. My mom's basement related. The Mobius reactions are out. They're exactly what we expected. Exactly as bad as we expected. People are saying it's very bad. The pacing's horrible. The story's horrible. People are saying it plays like a 2005 plot, which feels like an insult to the year 2005. But yeah, very bad CGI. Everyone is really pointing out the CGI is just horrendous. Someone wrote it is a movie of complete incoherence, and it reportedly has some of the worst post-credit scenes ever. I looked up what the post-credit scenes are. I read the description of it because that's not something I care about getting spoiled at all. I don't know if it sounds like the worst ever. It certainly doesn't sound good. It sounds like it doesn't make any sense. And another interesting thing about this, basically all reference to Spider-Man or that universe that we saw in the trailer has been cut out of the movie.
Really? Wow.
There's no Spider-Man graffiti in the background. There's no Oscorp in the background. They make a reference to him in the post-credit scene. They make a reference to Venom, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of reference to him, which it makes sense as much as it doesn't make sense because this movie was done filming before No Way Home even started filming.
I'll tell you, man, I don't know what it is about him. I've just never been a Jared Leto guy. So I see him and I'm just like, yep. I like he's had good roles. I'm not going to say he hasn't, but in terms of like things like this, I was like, man, I hope we don't have to watch this for the basement because I really have 0.0% interest. And then when I get reviews like this, these reviews usually come out with DC movies, and I'm like, all right, not even going to waste my 2.5 hours worth of time. So yeah, this is me saying I don't have to watch this movie, and thank you very much to all the people. And hey, if a bunch of listeners like these guys don't know what they talk about, this movie is fucking great, I'll think about seeing it. I'm going to say that's probably not going to happen, though. So
these aren't critic reviews. These are also fan reviews.
Yeah, these are also fan reviews. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, no fucking way in hell.
I think it's a little bit of each, but yeah, they're really bad. And then Moon Knight reactions appear to be the complete opposite. Moon Knight reactions are very positive, including from our own Jeff D'Lo and Ken Jack. I talked to them about it. I did get screeners sent to me, I think, for the first 4 episodes. But you know me, man of the people. I am watching Moon Knight with everyone else. I like the speculation. I like the week to week. I like not knowing what's going to happen. So Moon Knight reactions, they say comparisons to WandaVision and Loki, if you're going to compare it to any shows in the MCU, because it's a big mystery. Even Jeff told me that. He said the whole show is kind of an unraveling mystery, which I love. I think you love that as well. Like especially for this podcast, we like having to be like, is Mephisto coming out next week? All of that. And everyone is saying it's very violent. People are shocked by the amount of blood that they're showing already, which I'm in for. Again, like we don't get that in MCU shows. Give us an MCU show that's completely different than the rest.
That, and with the Netflix shows coming over, and that's, I actually got a thing the other day about on Disney Plus when I went on to play something for the kids, and it was like, hey, do you want to show like all the, do you want to block certain things, parental control things? Like they had me log in and do everything. So that's probably a reaction to that. And I hope that they saw that they were bringing these shows in and were like, well, let's just go fucking crazy with Moon Knight too.
Why not? If we're doing it, yeah.
And I said that in the blog when the trailer came out. I said, or maybe it was our podcast with Jose, which for anyone who hasn't, doesn't know much about
listen before this show.
It is a must listen because we're all clueless with you, and it's gonna, they'll do their job on the screen, but have Jose kind of break everything down for you. And Jose kind of said, like, you're not really sure what's going on. Is Khonshu? I said he's Tinder swindling him. There's
the
different
swindler, yeah.
Yeah, there's different versions of Moon Knight potentially. There's a lot of shit going on, and Oscar Isaacs sounds like he absolutely crushes that role. So the fact that these reviews came in, because there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of ways something this big with violence and with like mystery, it can go a lot of different ways. And the fact that everything's coming back thumbs up so much, it makes me feel so good, because I was pretty damn excited for it after talking to Jose, and now it's even more so. I'm legitimately stoked for it. So and this is coming from a fucking comic book character I didn't even know existed like a year ago.
Well, you had some comic books.
So I had the comic books somehow.
Kind of variant in the back of your head that knew he existed, but yeah.
I must have that must have been one of those grab bags where it's like you could get the first Spider-Man, and I got a fucking Moon Knight, comic book out of it.
I used to love getting the grab bags when it would be like a bunch of back issues for $5, and it'd be like 20 back issues for $5. You'd be like, I don't know what I'm getting in a little brown paper bag. Oh, those are my favorite.
I blog about this once every 6 months or so. I just go on a tangent where I'm just like, I fucking miss grab bags. Like, again, those comic books are like the Mark McGuire rookie cards in here. You're probably going to get some shitty, fucking, I don't even know. I'm trying to think of some Luis Castillo card. But you know what? That chance of that Mark McGuire being in there, you go into the bag. Grab bags are the best. I'm a shuffle guy too, on like the iPod or whatever.
I'm not really a shuffle guy myself. I'm an album guy. I like listening to albums start to finish.
You go straight through.
It's like almost an OCD thing. It's almost bad how much I listen to albums. Yeah.
And I go the opposite. I'm like, and if I'm feeling especially crazy, I go to the songs tab and then I hit shuffle. And you don't know if you're getting Christmas music. You might be getting some kid songs. I'm getting, we don't talk about
Dominic
Bruno.
the Donkey's coming up for AJ.
Dominic the Donkey, followed by like a hardcore rap song from like the early 2000s. You don't know what's
DMX,
going on. By the way, it's funny you say that, because literally that is AJ's Dominic the Donkey, followed by like We Don't Talk About Bruno, are on his mix back to back. So that's kind of, and now I'm raising him as a hard rock guy, so we're all going to be all right. We're going to straighten him out.
Yeah. Take him to the basement, some time with Uncle Rob. I'll introduce him to some Oasis too. We'll get him to some other rock, some Brit rock. Yeah.
Teach him how like an album breathes, it ebbs and flows. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Might need some 3G for that though, but so down the road when he's older.
Wait till AJ's. Yep. Speaking of sponsors, by the way, we do have some of our favorite sponsors on this episode, so might as well shout them out. First being HelloFresh. HelloFresh, if you don't know already, is America's #1 meal kit. They deliver pre-portioned ingredients straight to your door. You get the convenience of skipping out on the grocery store, and you don't have to waste any of your money on excess food, because they send you exactly what you need. You're going to use it all. It's going to be delicious, restaurant quality, and it's very easy to cook. They send you a little packet on how to do it. Not even a packet. It's like one sheet of paper. And they offer you the flexibility you need to customize your order online or in the app. So easy change preferences, your delivery day, food preferences, plan size, skip a week whenever you need to. It's 72% cheaper than a restaurant meal of the same quality. You can save on average over $65 per month when you order HelloFresh instead of grocery shopping. You're going to need that extra money when the Lego Star Wars saga comes out, the Skywalker saga. That game looks amazing. We're going to want to play that. So save your money on HelloFresh. Buy the Skywalker saga with that. And if you use the promo code HelloFresh.com/16Robbie, use the promo code 16Robbie, ROBBIE, you'll get 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. The 3 free gifts we say every week. We don't know what they are, but it's a grab bag. It's like, oh, you might get a Mark McGuire, you might get a Luis Castillo, whoever you said. It's like a HelloFresh grab bag. So go to HelloFresh.com. 16Robbie is the promo code. One of the big nerd items of the week we got to get into here. The Joker deleted scene from the Batman has been released. It was released in an awesome way as well. It's like my favorite thing about this whole story is the way they released it. On rataalada.com, you had to answer a couple of riddles to get through, which Devlin helped me out with. Devlin came over. He's like, I know the answers to all the riddles. He's doing a Batman voice. I was like, oh, cracking up. It was so funny. But it's like punchline. One was like, ha. It was like a bunch of random Riddler, Joker related riddles. You get past them, and there's a full 5-minute scene that they released with Barry Keoghan's Joker, Barry Keegan, whatever, Keoghan, however the fuck you say his last name.
Barry K.
He is scary looking too. Like, I didn't know how to feel about the Joker. We were tired of the Joker. And I gotta say, after this scene, I'm kind of down for this version of the Joker. Like, I've never seen a Joker where just the look of his face sent chills down my spine, and I was a little scared from him. The back of his head looked like he clawed, people said he was dropped in acid. Matt Reeves said this Joker might not have been dropped in acid, so I don't know if the acid is what did the stuff to his face, but it's like bubbly, and man, it's a good scene. I could see why they cut it too, because it's a bit long. It would distract a little bit from the Riddler stuff, I think, and the interrogation scene between Batman and the Riddler, pretty similar too. I like the way they shot it as well, where it's like you don't really see a clear look at his full face. You get like clear look at his eyes, clear look at his mouth, and then the rest of it's blurry. I like the scene. I think it was probably the right move to cut it though.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The Joker thing, like, it almost was kind of fucking with me in terms of, like, I'm like, did he do this to himself? He clawed his face.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like it's a mental health shit. I'm like, I am not ready to dive into that right now. But I'm with you on it. It would have probably just convoluted everything else, because it did feel at first when I saw the scene, I'm like, wait, is he in there with the Riddler? Because it felt like the same exact dynamic, and I'm sure they would have reshot it or something like that, or they could have made a change so they're not so similar. But we did talk about it too. Excuse me. I almost like I would have been very happy to take a breath from the Joker. We've had about 100 of them in like the last 10 years. I would have been fine to say, hey, we got the fact we got a little bit was good to say, hey, he's here and he's going to be a fucking problem coming in the future. He is fucking scary though. And that does, he's much more edgier, grittier than some of the other Jokers. And that's going to kind of play into, I imagine, what Matt Reeves' Batman's going to be like for the foreseeable future. So I was cool with that. But again, I already said, like, if you were to add this into everything else with, I thought 3 hours, everything they had there, I thought they could have maybe taken a little more out and kind of made it tighter. Throwing this into the mix, throwing the motherfucking Joker into the mix. And I'm like, all right, what's happening with the Joker now? That would have just been too much. And I feel like if they had that scene, they might have had other scenes to kind of like, go along with it. So I'm very happy they took it out personally. It was cool to see. I didn't realize you had to jump through all those hoops. Devlin's another guy at Barstool, A+ nerd. Have to have him on in the future. I'd love to hear his thoughts. He was great with Star Wars. And we're always chopping it up, talking, nerd shit whenever I'm in the office. So all in all, cool to see. Happy they got rid of it. If that's going to be our Joker moving forward though, like
they
kids
could build him up to be, right now we're like, we don't want just a Batman Joker movie again. Like, even after seeing that scene, I'm like, I hope he's not the main villain for the next movie. And I don't think he's going to be, but you could build him up through little tiny scenes like this to the point where we're like, all right, give us that Joker movie. Like, if he's that good, you could make us really ask for it and then deliver when the fans want it.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, I'm cool with it, but it's like, and I guess it's weird to say, maybe the Joker and Batman, like, not everything has to be kid friendly, right? Especially if they're gonna have fucking cartoons with pets
super
and all this
friends,
kind of stuff.
Like super pets, whatever. Yeah,
we can have a Batman that is, the Adult Swim. That was always the worst when you were a kid, and like, all right, Adult Swim time, and like, oh man, this is bullshit. Adults got to swim.
When you were a teen, that was the best. When it swapped over, you're like, Robot Chicken, yes, here we go.
I'm talking about in the pool, Bob, legitimate Adult Swim.
Adult Swim. I know. I'm talking about Cartoon Network Adult Swim. I didn't know Adult Swim was a real thing.
Yeah, it was like, we're doing free swim now, but like kids would go in the pool and it's like, all right, kids out. It's time for some of the adults. If the adults want to swim.
I didn't know where where the channel got their name or anything. Wow.
We're dropping knowledge in the basement
every day. Every day is a school day, brother. Every day is a school day. All right, let's get into some questions. Before we do, I'm going to do one more ad read. It's like a Jim Ross when he's like, "This is the final commercial break on Monday Night Raw," and then commercial free. We're going to do one ad read for Cuts Clothing, which is actually what I wore to the Billy Joel concert last night. Swear to God, I got a new package of Cuts Clothing. It was a nice, like curved hem. I forget what they call the men's shirt. They have a couple different men's shirts because at Cuts Clothing, obviously, there's a lot on our minds already. The last thing we want to be doing is spending too much energy on what to wear. So I just grabbed this shirt out of my dresser. I knew it was going to match what I was wearing. I knew it was going to look nice because they've perfected the art and science of men's shirts. So you can throw one on, look great without ever even thinking twice about it. They've got tees, they've got hoodies, polos. They've got even pants now, I think. There's a ton of great stuff at Cuts Clothing. It was founded by Stephen Borelli, obviously. They've got the long sleeve Henley now. The long sleeve Henley is actually really comfortable as well. It's like it's a shirt you could sleep in, basically, which you don't say about a lot of Henleys. And if you go to cutsclothing.com/basement right now, that's cutsclothing.com/basement, you will get 15% off your first order, 15% off the only shirt worth wearing, obviously, and join hundreds of thousands of guys who have made the simple decision to elevate their wardrobe with Cuts. Cuts is the best, and the Joker had a lot of cuts on his face, so there's the segue.
That's my guy, Bob Fox. He's a professional.
Let's get into some questions now. The first of which is from Caddy Ranch Pod. I'm going to change this question up a little bit. He said, the way Matt Reeves used Something in the Way, what song would you want to play over you like it did for Batman in the movie? Which is a good question. I don't know what my song would be necessarily. Maybe Why Not by Hilary Duff because I got that or something. But I'm going to change it up. I'm going to say, what do you want the song to be for Batman 2? And I think you could continue along the Nirvana path if you wanted to because he's inspired by Kurt Cobain. I would switch it up a little bit and I would keep it in the 90s grunge era. I would either do like an Alice in Chains song. I would do a Smashing Pumpkins song, a Soundgarden song, Temple of the Dog. Someone in that 90s grunge era. I would probably do Smashing Pumpkins, something like almost a deeper cut, like the airplane flies high, turns left, turns right. But you could do like Bullet with Butterfly Wings.
The world is a vampire.
Imagine
That's what
just
thought.
Batman walking out of the shadows to that shit like people fucking terrified. You know, Something in the Way is a little more emo and whatever. I think Batman's going to be a little less emo in the next movie based on I need to be a symbol of hope and not just do this for vengeance. And I think we're getting a little more Bruce Wayne. So I think maybe like, yeah, we're a fucking Bullet with Butterfly Wings. There you go.
That was my answer. I like that. You know what? Fuck it. I already brought Offspring up. Let's get a little like grungier remix of the Offspring Self-Esteem or Keep Them Separated or some shit. Pretty Fly for a white guy would be kind of weird, but maybe it's more Bruce Wayne.
It could be like the Bruce Wayne scene of like in Spider-Man 3 when Peter Parker's like dancing, he's doing the like weird like over the top like Bruce Wayne doing that.
I was thinking Keep Them Separated, but it's the Joker and Batman, right? And it's like you don't want these two to go together because it's gonna get explosive. But I think Bullet with Butterfly.
I thought that was a fun question though. Like just like to think about that. I want to see people make like music videos on YouTube to these with like Batman clips or something. Like I feel like that would be really cool.
And the song from Black Widow, the Teen Spirit, right? Like the way they like that shit fucking hit hard. And it was because I was covering my 6-year-old daughter's eyes because Uncle Robbie didn't tell her that it was fucking human trafficking to start the episode off. Nonetheless, though, like it just goes to show you how well like a good cover can really like just crush, even if it's not by the original group. So yeah, good question.
Great question. The next one, this is kind of, I think this is more me than you. I feel like you're not super into this world, but TNT with DNT says, Halo series, yay or nay? The first episode of the Halo series is out. I was a huge Halo guy growing up, my favorite video game series of all time. Halo 3 was like my favorite game. I was Master Chief for Halloween one year. I read the Halo books. I haven't watched it yet, but I'll say yay based on like I'm into it. I've wanted it forever. The stuff I've seen is that it's good, not great. It's pretty campy, people say, but I don't have an issue with Halo being campy. Give me like a really fun sci-fi show. It doesn't have to be amazing, but yeah, yay. I'm in on it. I'm excited to watch it.
So Halo is one of those things that, again, I was a PlayStation guy. My hands are not very big. It's something maybe that's why I wear the Thanos glove so people can't tell I have small hands because I'm wearing this fucking made for a Titan. This Golem made for a Titan. That first Xbox controller was chunky. And you were probably like 3 when the first Xbox. How old were you?
I was really, really young. My brother bought the first Xbox. He was like my brother was one of the I swear he was one of the first like people to be all in on Xbox, and I couldn't use the first controller. Like we had to buy. They came out with different controllers right away because everyone complained, and yeah, I had to use like a kiddie controller.
So like just because of that, I was like, I'm just gonna stay PlayStation. I fell in love with certain games on Sony, but I will say like missing out on the entire Halo Revolution is one thing. In like real time, I was like, man, it sucks. I can't play that. But once you pick it up and there was X and Y, and that's not the same spot as the X on the PlayStation controller and shit like that.
The X is blue too. It's
X
tough,
and
yeah.
O. That's what it was. It was X and O because there's a circle, but then there was a O. So all that kind of shit. It just drove me crazy. So Halo is one of those things that, yeah, from the outside looking in, I really don't have an opinion. I saw Ken Jack. He blogged about it. He seemed to be lukewarm on it. So at this rate, I'm just blindly going with Ken Jack in terms of my thing. So if Ken Jack says it's meh, in my opinion, until proven otherwise.
I like some meh shows. Like I was kind of into the CW superhero shows that people shit on, and just in that, like I like tuning in and just kind of knowing what I'm getting in a show. Like there's something to that where it's you tune in and you're like, yeah, this isn't going to be Breaking Bad, but it's going to be a half an hour of gore, violence, aliens exploding. Like I'm in on that shit. Charles B says, as someone who tunes into My Mom's Basement for Star Wars, Marvel, superhero, nerd stuff, what's the best wrestling episode or interview to go back to that would help a non-wrestling fan start to get into it? I think this is an interesting question because it kind of depends on what you're going to be into in wrestling, but like we don't know that yet because you're not into wrestling. So I could see people liking the Danhausen interview because Danhausen is just this eccentric, over the top character who does the interview in character, and it's like a very fun, funny interview. And he's in AEW now, so you could go, watch that interview, go watch AEW. You'll see him week to week. I could also see some of the more popular interviews, like the Stone Cold one, the Ric Flair one, and the Undertaker one, driving people to check it out because those are all done with Jared Carrabis as well, who we're not even supposed to talk about now. But now, it's in the past. Jared Carrabis existed at Barstool, and they're all like really good career retrospective interviews almost that do get funny. So I would recommend, as far as old school wrestlers, like the Undertaker one and the Stone Cold one in particular. And then as far as new wrestlers go, I honestly think Danhausen or someone like Adam Cole, who I've interviewed on the channel before, because we get into a lot of video games. He's a huge Halo guy himself. We talk about if you want to get the PlayStation 5 versus the Xbox Series 1, which you should get and why. I try to, at least with a lot of my wrestling interviews, talk about stuff outside of the ring because I do know there's a lot of people that listen to even the wrestling interviews that don't like wrestling. And I appreciate that. I think that's cool that people are into it enough to listen to the interviews with even people they're not super into. But I would say either Danhausen or The Undertaker. Those are your two most likely, which is hysterical to say one after the other. One's like a character from Batman, the animated series, and one is the most prolific Hall of Famer, all time. He's going in this year.
So this is coming from me again. This is someone that grew up loving wrestling in the 80s and 90s, Hulkamania, basically. I got out right around the time Hulk Hogan left. So I missed a lot of like when Bret Hart rose to like prominence and all that kind of stuff, but got back in right as the Attitude Era kicked off. And I mean, I'm telling you, when I was into wrestling, there was nothing bigger in my life. Sports, comic shit, whatever the fuck. Wrestling was by far my favorite thing in the world when it was cooking at its absolute best. I would recommend the Monday Night War, right? That's a television
if you find
series.
The documentary, that's on Peacock. So that's another thing where if you're a wrestling fan, you probably hate that the wrestling stuff's on Peacock. But if you're not a wrestling fan, you probably have Peacock for The Office or Parks and Rec, and you have a lot of content at your disposal, like amazing Attitude Era WWE stuff. And you could give the WWE a lot of shit. Documentaries is one thing they don't really fuck up. Like sometimes they do revisionist history on stuff, but the actual storytelling is like that's enough to get you into wrestling.
I just Googled it. I put an Attitude Era documentary because that was my favorite. I was obviously when
there's one that the cover almost looks like Sergeant Pepper's, where it's got like just all faces on it. That one's amazing. I think it's just called Attitude Era.
And there's this one, Attitude Era documentary. If you just Google it, I don't know if it's the same one, but it's 57 minutes long and it's on Daily Motion. You just watch it for free. It's an hour long. Just bang it out real quick. I don't know if there's anything about like the 80s wrestling. That was a little different, cartoony. I'm sure
they kind of different. Yeah. If you there's one I would recommend called The True Story of Wrestlemania. And that's one too where I think Vince went in and like corrected some things in it. but you'll get the general overall scope of like the first 10 years of WrestleMania, which is like there's truly some great stuff in there too. So the documentaries are a good place to start. I would start at a documentary before a match even, because like the way they'll show highlights of matches will make you understand it a little more, and then when you watch a match you'll be like, oh fuck, this is awesome, like a full thing.
And that's the best way to put it too.
Or
Forget about
WrestleMania too. WrestleMania is like next weekend. Invite your friends over and like have a WrestleMania party. It's 2
yeah.
nights. So there's a Saturday night now too if you don't want to do Sunday night leading into Monday. Like WrestleMania is always a fun time. Johnny Knoxville's wrestling. Logan Paul's going to be there. Pat McAfee's wrestling. Like they always make it so you'll be able to be entertained even if you're not week to week on the storylines. They'll show little video packages before matches. Have a WrestleMania party. It's fun.
And trust me, like for people that don't know, that have never followed wrestling or just looking from the outside, or it's fake, it's or it's not fake, that's what people say, but it's scripted, all this kind of stuff. Wrestling is about entertainment, and there's a reason why it's been around before I was born, and the reason why it's gonna be around after I die, and it's just fucking real life entertainment. It's very Barstool, personality driven, crazy over the top characters, funny shit, some shtick, some real stuff, and then the wrestling, the matches are almost, at least for me, they're kind of in the background. I know there's people, I'm sure, like Bob, who appreciate the technical side of shit, and when there's awesome wrestlers, you'll know. But like Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, they were never the best technical wrestlers, and they fucking were
Stone Cold, the funniest thing about Stone
Cold was unbelievable.
He legit was, and it didn't work because nobody cared. Everyone was like, oh, cool, he's fucking Steve Austin, the ringmaster. What a great technical wrestler. And then he was like, you know what? Let's try something else. Fuck you. I drink beer. I hate my boss. I'm going to do 5 moves from here on out. And everyone is like, he's the GOAT. He's the best ever. And he's wrestling next Saturday against Kevin Owens. It's not like an official match yet, but I think it's going to be a big brawl. And it's like rumored to close WrestleMania. Tell you what, Stone Cold looks like he's been zoning in on the meal prep. He looks like he's been leaning up for this. He's having like a real match. You're going to see a stunner get handed out in Dallas at WrestleMania. You're going to hear the glass shatter, the pop. Oh, it's going to be amazing.
He's getting the healthy HelloFresh packages right now. He's eating good. Yeah. That's good to hear.
He's not doing the like family whatever. He's going for the vegetarian even. Yeah, I think Stone Cold is really leaning up right now.
I've had this like debate in my head for a while too, because AJ is. I mean, right now, like he'll just like come downstairs and jump like 5 stairs off the top just to like, because he likes. He's like a danger person. He just like danger. I'm like, I really want to introduce him to wrestling because I know he's gonna like it again.
Clem, you gotta. But
I'm gonna have to go to the ER within a week, I guaranteed, because he's gonna do stupid. He's already does dumb shit without knowing that pro wrestling exists. But it is one of those things that I always wanted to like, just like I want to raise my kids a Mets fan. Like I always wanted to raise my kid as a wrestling fan. Like that's how a lot of like older people get back into it is through their kids.
I mean, I just bought Luke his first tickets to wrestling ever this week, and I was so happy to do it. Like Raw's coming to Detroit like 2 weeks after WrestleMania, maybe 1 week after WrestleMania. So I know it'll be a good show too. And I just went on Ticketmaster. I bought like such good seats, like 3 rows from like the elevated position on the lower bowl. So he's going to be able to see the ring and everything. And I bought them so I could see him on TV. Nice. I want to see him react. I'm like, oh, I'll be able to watch Luke watch wrestling. Oh my God, I'm excited for it. And the final question we got here from Little Kahuna says, should I watch all of the Marvel shows that moved from Netflix to Disney Plus? I watched season 1 of Luke Cage and thought it was so fucking corny. I would say the answer is a resounding no from everyone online. I have not watched all of the Marvel shows or the Netflix Marvel shows myself. I'm into Daredevil right now. I started getting into Daredevil right as they took it off, so I got to get back into it. But everyone says Daredevil is really good. Punisher is supposed to be really good, and I know Jessica Jones is passable for a lot of people. And then they did an Avengers-style team-up with all of these people called the Defenders, and I think some people liked that as well. It was a more shorter series, like it was more an event. But Luke Cage, Iron Fist, all that stuff, no. People resoundingly hate that, and it's pretty universal in people hating that stuff. So you're not alone in thinking season 1 of Luke Cage was no good. I would say if you're looking to get into it, start with Daredevil and get into Punisher after that. And then if you're really into all of that, you could go into Jessica Jones as well, because she might even be brought into the MCU. I think the rumor is that she'd be brought in She-Hulk.
Okay.
So there's a chance that all happens. And obviously the Daredevil stuff will give you a better appreciation for Kingpin and Hawkeye and whatnot.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. And I do. I don't think that they're gonna be like whenever they introduce these characters into the MCU, they'd be like, all right, now everyone has done their homework, right, and watched
No.
their old Netflix shows. Like, nope, they're gonna introduce it, whether it's another show, whether it's in a movie, even just like a, obviously. God, fuck it, we're spoiling Spider-Man. If you haven't seen Spider-Man yet, fucking
come on.
Daredevil's in Spider-Man. All right,
yeah, he's in the first 10 minutes of the movie too. Like it's 8 minutes in, and he's like, "I'm
it's
a great
springtime.
lawyer."
It's fucking spring now. You can't wait for a movie. It's like, oh, I had COVID.
Spider-Man's out, by the way. So if people wanna go get that on iTunes and have it, so you could watch it 1,000 times in a row, you could do that. There's a ton of bonus features on it too.
Oh, is there? I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I know that there's a bonus feature my brother told me where they like point out all the Easter eggs themselves, which I think is pretty cool.
That's cool. I like that. I will say Luke Cage is someone I don't know a ton about, and I hope I saw there was a question like, what is one like out of left field movie?
Oh yeah.
I'd like to see a movie or a show made about him, because I do feel like he's a big time character, but I know nothing about him, and kind of like, with Guardians and some of the other shows and movies they've done along the way, I am interested to like learn about him, and I'm not going to read the comics. I can't read at all. I do audiobooks, Bob. It's either audiobooks or nothing at all in my mind.
We might start something though. Jake Bass from Barstool hit me up and with an idea, and he's like, "You guys should do a comic book club, and like once a month maybe have Jose on, and we will read a iconic comic book and then like talk about it with him." And I said to Jake, I was like, all right, that's a great idea. But I was like, Clem, he's got the kids. I don't know if he's got time to read a fucking graphic novel a month. I said, it might be funnier if he doesn't. And me and Jose read it, and the podcast is us trying to explain the entire storyline to him.
My head, like my brain exploding as like different things come up. Wait, that's the mom.
I think it's a good idea though, the comic book club. Like if we could get that up and running. I just recommended to Jake Batman Hush. He was in a comic book store and he had like 3 comics, and he's like, have you read any of these? Would you recommend them? And one of which was Batman Hush. And I was like, oh, dude, you got to get that. That's where my Batman tattoo comes from. It's one of my favorites.
If Bob has it on his body, it's good. It's Bob
he texted me recently and he was like, dude, I just finished Hush. What a fucking book. So that's my recommendation for all the listeners that have made it this far. If you've made it this far in the podcast to the end, go to your comic book store, go to Amazon if you have to, but I would rather you support a local comic store. But get Hush, read it, and tell me what you think about it, because I think it's an amazing Batman detective story. You'll get hints of the Batman even. So if you liked that movie, you'll get a little bit of that detective story that you saw there. So check that out. I actually booked my next tattoo appointment recently. I haven't gotten a tattoo in years, but I'm going to get a Trig design, actually.
Wow, Trig?
Our guy Trig, who's designed a ton of the My Mom's Basement artwork. He does such good cartoons that I was like, I want a tattoo in that cartoon style that you do. So I'm going to kind of just work up my arm, and I'm getting all 4 Beatles wrapped around this arm. He designed them in the Sergeant Pepper way. Should I give the people a little tease of what I'm getting here?
Yeah, give the people a little taste, Bob. This is the YouTube. We got to go to the YouTube. If you guys want to see it, man, there was an old tweet that I stumbled upon. When someone's like, man, Clem, you're having like a run, and there was a bunch of content I was doing, and one of the things was, and he's like, and you went in the basement. It was a picture of me and you as Thanos and Cap, and I was like, oh man, classic. That was a good ass time, man. Endgame.
So there's Ringo. Oh, there's Ringo.
This is Trig.
Yeah.
Jesus.
There's George. There's John, and there's Maka, Paul himself.
That man is good at what he does.
So it's going to be like, I'm going to kind of have one on the face, one on the, it's going to be like 4 of them wrapped around. And then I don't know what I'm going to do above that. But since I'm getting them in the Sergeant Pepper's outfits, there's a chance I kind of just work up my arm with like funny, interesting characters, cartoons, all stuff like that. Almost like a Sergeant Pepper's cover, but for like all the stuff that I like.
I dig it, man. I dig the hell out of it. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Do we have a hashtag we could give people that made it to the end?
I was thinking, just because you had said it, it's like, if you made it this far, like just hashtag Hush. Just makes no sense for people. No, I did.
People won't get it, but like hashtag Hush. Yeah. If you've made it this far, tweet us at hashtag Hush. And we'll be back next week for Moon Knight. Moon Knight is officially next week. So listen to that podcast with Jose that we did if you're interested in it. It's everything you need to know about that character, stuff that will be helpful knowing going into the show. I think it helped people going into Hawkeye, some of the other previous ones, Eternals especially.
Yep.
So go check that out. And we'll be back next week with our first ever Moon Knight review. I can't wait.